Hunger was not an occasional hardship in the Middle Ages. It was a constant companion that shaped perception, behavior, and social interaction. People thought through the lens of scarcity. Decisions were measured by immediate need, rather than long-term consequence. Food dictated attention, energy, and emotion. When the body was uncertain of its next meal, the mind prioritized survival over reflection, curiosity, or ambition. Daily routines were structured around the acquisition and preservation of sustenance. Work, travel, and relationships were all filtered through hunger. The future existed only insofar as it promised the possibility of tomorrow's bread. Planning beyond the next few hours was often impossible because uncertainty rendered abstract goals irrelevant. Hunger compressed time, narrowed focus, and demanded immediacy. Social life reflected the same pressures. Trust, cooperation, and generosity were conditional. People learned to calculate the risk and reward of sharing, helping, or speaking. Hunger sharpened observation and memory. Knowing who could be counted on for support, who could be trusted with resources, and who would act in self-interest was crucial. These calculations shaped alliances, social hierarchies, and community dynamics. Hunger also reshaped psychology. People became attuned to scarcity, anticipating loss before it arrived. The mind learned to expect discomfort and danger simultaneously. Desire, hope, and satisfaction were tempered by experience. Pleasure was fleeting, and optimism was risky. Thinking creatively or dreaming of improvement required energy and stability that hunger made nearly impossible. Even morality was affected. Actions were judged through necessity rather than principle. Survival justified choices that would otherwise seem unacceptable. Stealing, hoarding, or manipulating became understandable behaviors in a context where resources were unpredictable and life was fragile. Ethics were measured by pragmatism and the ability to endure. In this environment, experience replaced theory. People relied on observation and memory rather than instruction or advice. Knowledge of where, when, and how to obtain food determined status and survival. Hunger taught vigilance, caution, and acute awareness. It transformed thinking into a tool for immediate adaptation, rather than long-term planning. Over time, this shaped both individual and collective consciousness. People internalized scarcity as a natural condition. Expectation of plenty was dangerous because it could lead to waste, overconfidence, or exposure. Thought itself became calibrated to scarcity, prioritizing caution, endurance, and attention to the present. Hunger was not only physical, it was a framework for how people lived, acted, and understood the world. The constant presence of hunger shaped perception far beyond the immediate need for food. People learned to read subtle signs, the condition of crops, the mood of neighbors, the behavior of authority. Every interaction, every observation was filtered through survival. The mind became attuned to scarcity, recognizing threat, opportunity, and necessity with precision. Thinking itself was constrained by the body's needs, making abstract reflection secondary to immediate awareness. Hunger also molded social relationships. Cooperation existed, but only when it aligned with survival. Trust was conditional, and generosity was calculated. Those who shared recklessly risked their own subsistence, while those who withheld learned caution and patience. Alliances formed and dissolved according to need, not sentiment. Community was fragile, constantly tested by fluctuating resources, and governed as much by fear of loss as by loyalty or tradition. Psychologically, people adapted by narrowing focus. Dreams, ambitions, and curiosity were often deferred or suppressed. Expectation was limited to the next meal, the next day, the next season.
Planning beyond immediate needs became a dangerous exercise. Miscalculation could lead to exposure, starvation, or social reprisal. Even memory and attention were calibrated to survival, filtering experience through the lens of what mattered in the moment. Hunger also disciplined the body. Fatigue, weakness, and illness were constant companions. Physical labor under these conditions reinforced endurance and stoicism. Complaints were discouraged because voicing distress could attract censure or social risk. To live successfully was to tolerate, to adapt, and to continue acting despite discomfort. Pain and hunger became intertwined in the experience of daily life, reinforcing a worldview where endurance was a prerequisite for existence. The culture of scarcity permeated morality and social norms. Choices were evaluated by effectiveness rather than idealism. Stealing, deception, or manipulation were understood as pragmatic responses to an unforgiving environment. Ethics became adaptive rather than absolute. To act in ways that preserved life and resources was seen as not only acceptable, but necessary. The mind learned to weigh consequences swiftly and to prioritize survival over principle. Over generations, these patterns became ingrained. Individuals grew up observing scarcity as a constant, internalizing vigilance, caution, and immediate responsiveness. The expectation of plenty was dangerous. Hope was measured, desire was restrained, and thought was trained to navigate uncertainty continuously. Communities, families, and social hierarchies were all structured around the realities of hunger, shaping the culture as much as laws or customs. Ultimately, hunger transformed the medieval mindset. It defined perception, constrained thought, directed social behavior, and disciplined the body. Life was experienced in short intervals, and the future was a distant abstraction rather than a plan. Survival was immediate, priorities were compressed, and endurance became the central skill. Hunger was not merely a physical condition. It was a lens through which people understood the world, governed their choices, and shaped their societies. It dictated how they thought, how they acted, and how they endured, creating a society where scarcity was not just a circumstance, but the organizing principle of daily life.